What up, everybody? It's your girl July from Kickback Couture. Today we dropped this fire guitar loop sample pack, and I'm gonna show y'all the best player you can use to lay down your hi-hats, to sequence your hi-hats and get them going with that trap sound we all love, or boom bap, whatever sound you might be going for. Let's get straight into it. Before I even get started, I'm going to give you a preview of what we're going to be doing. I have soloed the hi-hat pattern so that you can hear it by itself. And this is the hi-hat pattern with the guitar loop, which I used as a melody. This guitar loop is coming from the new fillings loop pack that I dropped on the site. It looks like this, so you could go check that out. Oh, it's over there. Alright, best part of this video is that I'm going to show you how to do it. Alright, so what I'm going to do is actually, let's completely delete this and start from scratch so that no one is lost in a step. Alright, I'm going to drag an NNXT over into a new rack. And you can use an NNXT or a grain. I'll show you quickly how you can set both of them up. The only reason I'm using the NNXT, is because I don't have to do any routing in this area. There is already CV options for what I might want to control with the PolyStep sequencer CV. Alright, so I'm gonna keep the grain, but I'm gonna drag it over to the right. Let's go ahead and grab the PolyStep sequencer. Just gonna put that there. Alright, and now we need to grab a hi-hat sound that we like. So let's go to the Reason drum supply and we'll pick a hi-hat. I always go for the 808 hi-hats first, just because those are my favorite types of hi-hats to do trap hi-hats with. Alright, so there is our hi-hat. And there's a couple things I want to do to set this up, okay? So this is the PolyStep sequencer, as you can see. And let's go ahead and put this auto switch on. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 1, 1, 1, 2. We got random and we got next. I don't know why I went out of order like that. But let's go ahead and put it on next. That is going to make the pattern switch from variation 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I don't mean pattern as of this part right here, but the variations are going to switch automatically. So it's kind of like having patterns, but instead they're variations, and they'll change with the click of the button instead of having to automate the patterns. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. Let's get some noise going. So we're in variation 1, and we have the scale on C minor. With hi-hats, I would say you don't have to do a scale. I would kind of stay away from that unless you want to make your hi-hats in a certain key, which I don't think anyone is really thinking about. It's completely up to you, personal preference, if you want to do all of that. Alright, so I have put it on C chromatic so we can see all of the notes here in this area. And you can see it switch and the notes change there. So we'll keep it on chromatic, and we know the root note of this is always going to be at C3. As you can see, it's highlighted right here unless you want to move it. If you would like to move it, you just click on that sample and you can drag the root around with this knob. Alright, first hi-hat. Just going to hold down Command on a Mac and Control on a Windows to click it in, or alternatively, you can double click. Alright, so this is variation 1, and when I go to variation 2, you will see that it's blank. So you have these 4 variations that you can go through. So I want to do a pattern that sounds something like this. Alright, cool. And the cool thing about it is that I can take this variation here, copy this variation and paste it to the next one and make my changes So let's hear it. So I don't want the same exact thing on this one, so I'll do something a little different. What I do also want you to take note of is the ability to change the slide of the notes, so you can add some swing. For example, with this note, if I want to slide it a little bit to the left, I can come down here to the slide option and slide it, and you can see it moving in the grid inside of the player itself. So let's also slide this one here. And it would be more apparent if I were to do something like this. So every other hi-hat is going to be slid at this point. Let's go ahead and reset the slide on that after we make another note. All right. So right now I have these first, second, 1, 3, 5th, and 7th hi-hats have no swing, and the ones in between do. So let's listen to that. Now, if you listen to that compared to what this will sound like without any slide, you'll see we got some more bounce going on. So this player is really flexible and making sure that you have all the options needed to create the hi-hat grooves that you want. So that's without it. And I'm just going to go ahead and hold down shift, select all of these, and then slide them. And now I have more slide there, more swing, more rhythm. And let's actually copy this one, and we'll go with the pattern like this for the purposes of the tutorial. And I'll copy this to all the variations and then make changes. Now, in addition to these 4 variations, you see you have a grid here just like this. You can do some rolls. So for example, let's say we got one here. Ideally, our clap will land about here. So let's say I want to put a roll here. So I'm going to go ahead and just reset the slide because I would like my roll to be on the grid. That is also personal preference. And I'm going to click on the top right of the box and drag it out. And now I have this repeats option down here that I can drag up and get some repeats. Alright, I like that roll there. I want to add another roll here. And I don't have to reset the slide, but I'll show you what it sounds like if you don't. And I also wanted to drag that out. Alright, so it still sounds really clean. It's up to you. If it sounds off for any reason, you can reset that slide. Alright, so I've taken the third pattern and I've hit the clear button over here. Just remember you have random, alter to switch things up a little bit. You got random again, and you got clear, so you can clear it and clear out that entire variation. What I want to show you is rate. Now, even though it says 116 on all of these, and you can see the 16 boxes in the grid here from left to right, at least, you can change it. So you can do triplets if you would like to. Let's go with 1/16 triplets. Now you see that the grid does not change, but if you look at this marker here, it's going to move in time of triplets. So let's see that compared to this one. Now let's get some triplets going on this third variation. I'm actually going to edit, copy the variation on 2 and paste it on 3 again. And then let's put a triplet in here. And our rate is back to 1/16 because I copied and pasted it. So that is my bad. And that is now triplets as opposed to what this was. So let's get something that sounds a lot nicer. Let's go 1, 2, 3. We'll turn this one off, and then we'll turn that off. And let's see what this sounds like. From the top, put next back on auto switch, start from 1. Now, with this, because it switches to the next pattern faster, I would actually do it an alternative way. So I'm going to clear this again, put the rate back on to 1/16, and we'll use the slide to get the triplet sound that we want. So again, going to copy a variation from pattern 2 and paste it on pattern 3. Alright, now if we want triplets here, we're going to need 3 notes within this area. So I'm going to slide this more, and we could do a whole -50 slide, and we'll reset this. Now this motion here, this setup, this is at 0, this one's at 50, and this one's at 0. Will give you a clean triplet, okay? And we'll start at 1 here. Alright, let's put another triplet here at the end, slide this all the way 50, and reset this. Alright, so that's how you do clean triplets. I wanted to show you the rate just so you know what the option sounds like. Now, the next step, the sauce. So we have the option to control the velocity with this as well. And in addition to that, you can do some melody stuff. So I'll show you some more of the melody stuff you can do in another tutorial. But let's focus on these hi-hats. We can change the velocity. Now I want to do every other note slightly lower. We're not using that one. But let's go ahead. 1, 2, 3. Let's do the roll a little quieter. And then... and I'll just go through and add my variations and velocity so I can add more rhythm and give it more bounce. Same thing I said twice, but that's what we're doing, and I'll play it for you. Now, did you hear the difference between the first 2 variations and then we got to the third one? Hopefully you did. And if you did, you notice these 2 had more rhythm, more bounce. So adding that rhythm and bounce with the velocity is definitely going to help you get some groove going. And you can experiment with this at your leisure to see what kind of velocity variation you want and where you want to put it. You play with that on your own terms, as well as the slide. I slided every other note. You might want to slide the even notes in your pattern or the odd notes or anything like that. You play with it and experiment. Next, we have the CV. So I want to route something to these CV controls here. I'm going to flip over to the back. And let's go ahead and do pitch. I want my pitch to be able to be automated. And we'll also do pan. So I could pan these hi-hats from left to right. Now, as for CV1, we're going to pay attention to what we put where. CV1 is connected to the pitch. So if I select CV1, we'll go to variation 1. And I'll do this and let's see if it's working. Or we can hit the random button. And it is working. I'm going to turn this off so it doesn't switch while we're looking at one variation. Gonna reset that, and I'll draw in some more subtle CV modulation. Another thing you might want to do is also pull down this knob here. This is the modulation input. This controls how much the pitch can change. So if you don't want to, do really small, minuscule movements like this with these bars, you can just pull down that knob in the back by hitting tab, pull it down, oscillator pitch, and now it won't change as much. So let's hear it. Now, the beauty of the PolyStep sequencer is that you don't have to have one line of hi-hats And I also want to demonstrate that. So let's go ahead and move down a little bit. And let's place some new line of hi-hats down here. I'll put a low hi-hat here. And we can even make rolls with the other line. You can make another midline. You can add one at the top. Possibilities are infinite. You could literally do anything on here with ease. Alright, back to the CV. We got our pitch going. And now we're going to make sure we get the other patterns. Just gonna hit random and change the parts I don't like. Random. Alright, cool. We got some pitch variation going on. And we'll switch over to CV2. And for CV2, you'll see this uni bi button here. We're going to put it on bipolar. This means that it'll be going from top to bottom. And this will symbolize or basically represent left to right. So we can go right. And let's listen and see which direction it'll be which. Top is in the right side of my headphones. So we're going left to right, and that's why I put it on bipolar. The unipolar option is for things that are kind of like 0 to 100%, whereas bipolar would be something with values that can go from negative to positive, which would be like left would be negative 100, whereas right would be plus 100, depending on what kind of tool you're using. So we'll keep it on bipolar, and then we can hit random again if we want to. And we have to do that with all of these. Bipolar. 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 Now, what I would recommend is you go ahead and set this up if you would like to use it in NXT and save it in your template so you don't have to go through and route everything every time you do it. Now, it's completely up to you if you want to set it up every time. Otherwise, it's in my template for speed, okay? One of the last things I want to show you is how to automate the patterns in case you want more than these 4 variations. When you go to the next pattern, it will be blank. So you'll have to either copy over the variations you want or create a new pattern, which is the beauty in PolyStep Sequencer, all of the flexibility. So you have up to 8 patterns, and within those 8 patterns, there are 4 variations in each. All right. So I'm going to right click on one of these buttons, the pattern buttons, and hit edit automation. Now you'll see the PolyStep sequencer here, pattern select, and I can do the same thing I did with my drum sequencers in my template to PolyStep. I'll grab the pen tool, and up here in this area we'll see the pattern / loop, and I'm going to stay in bank A because there's only one bank in the PolyStep sequencer, and I'll start with pattern 1 because that is the one that I sequence with my hi-hats, and I'll just drag that out. And you notice where these lines are, those will be where the variation is going to switch. And you can drag this out as far as you want to. But let's go ahead and grab pattern A so you can see it changing in real time. And let's make sure we have the variation going to next. Alright, so it did switch in real time, and you see those lines went away as we changed the auto switch. So before it was off, and you seen the lines here, so it would be repeating that variation. But as it's smooth, and we put it on next, and it automatically goes, you see those lines are gone. and then it switched to pattern 2, which was blank, and you have up to 8 patterns here, so you can have fun with that. If you wanted to record into the PolyStep sequencer, you could also do that. You just hit this record button here, and then you hit run, and it will start recording, and you can do another line of hi-hats. So if we wanted to look at that, I hit the record button, it's red, and then we hit run. Now, I definitely wouldn't keep those where they are. I just wanted to show you what it looks like when you record into the PolyStep sequencer. Those notes will be red up until the point where you turn this button off. And then you can just undo that by hitting Control Z on a Windows and Command Z on a Mac. Okay, last step, I'm going to show you how to set this up with the grain as far as the CV goes. Okay, I'm dragging a hi-hat into this grain, and you may have seen me do these steps a bunch of times. Gonna put it on one-shot mode for the motion, gonna drag it out so the entire duration of the sample is playing, and which now it is. And I'm going to put the algorithm on tape. It gives us a smoother sound, which isn't necessarily needed given a hi-hat is a really short sample. It's up to you which sound you like. Experiment and see. Alright, and then if we want to get that CV going, we will need the PolyStep sequencer. Alright, now if we flip to the back, you'll see the CV modulation options here. We got 1. We got 2, and you can also route the velocity out wherever, just like you had other options with the NNXT, you have other options with the grain, and I encourage you to experiment with that. Now I'm going to reset this area here. Okay, so I'm going to use this bottom area down here to program what we would like these CV options to control. Okay, so I'm going to choose the first CV input, which would be CV1, and we'll go ahead and get CV2 here under the second source option, and we're going to pick a destination. Now for the first one, we could do exactly what we did with the NNXT, or we could do something different. We could go with pitch, or we can even use, one of the effects over here. So let's actually go with distortion and drive. And then for the second one, we could go with something familiar like pan, which would be in my face somewhere. Amplifier, pan. Okay, I have a random pattern here. Let's just hit play. And the first one, CV1, is unipolar. It's going to be distortion drive. Let's hit random and make sure it's on. And now we can hear that modulating. As for the second one, which is pan, let's hit random. And we need to turn up the amount so that it actually can get some differences going there. So let's listen to it with the distortion only. I know that probably confused you because I forgot that step. So let's listen. CV1. So this is with the distortion drive modulating. And you can also add more than one destination. So let's say we also want to add some reverb modulation. We could do that here on amount and turn on the reverb. And the more you turn up the amount, the more that these bars control what's going on. As far as scale goes, at least. I don't want to confuse you by saying that. Alright, and then we have it panning from left to right, and we got that bipolar, so let's hit random and listen to that. So we can get some really nice dynamic hi-hat patterns with the PolyStep sequencer. It has tons of different options and flexibility. So I recommend if you don't have it, you at least try it. It comes with Reason 11 Suite. So if you have Reason 11 Suite, you already have it. You need to log into your account and sync your devices. If you don't know how to do that, I'll do that really quickly. Alright, you're going to log into your account, and up here at the top, you're going to go to My Products. You're going to go to Rack Extensions, and you're going to hit the sync button, sync all, or you can go through and search and download your specific rack extensions that you would like to. Okay, so you just hit the sync all button and authorizer will open up, and once authorizer opens up, it will install everything for you. Okay, now that is going to conclude this tutorial. I hope everything made sense. Have fun with those hi-hats. Let me know what you would like to see next. It's all Couture, Kickback, and Cook Up.